All right, Thursday night Cholent. We learn something different every week. This week we're going to learn a mimer from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Obviously, something that I have a particular enjoyment in, and this week there happens to be a particularly short mimer. It's usually hard to learn a whole mimer in one sitting, but this mimer from Parshas Vayechi is on the short side. So I'm hoping with Hashem's help we'll finish the mimer tonight. And so here we go. After all the different Sfarim we've learned from, we're learning from Sefer Maimorim of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Okay, so here's the mimer from Parshas Vayechi. Actually, it wasn't from a Shabbos. It was a early Yom Gimel. It was a Monday night. Sada B'Tevis, the night going into Sada B'Tevis. Tavshin Lamed Ches, 1978. I don't know, actually, was it in 1977 or 78? Depends if it was January yet. If it was December still, it was 77. It was January. Someone can use the Hebrew English date converter and you can let us know. Okay, so here we go. The mimer, Yehuda ato yeducha achecha l'geimer. Last night I was at the birthday Fabrengen of Chaim Cohn here in Cedarhurst, and he was mentioning that many years on his birthday he would chazer this mimer, he would repeat this mimer because it's such a short mimer. So it was an easier mimer to remember. So that was partially my inspiration. I said, it's true. There is a short mimer from this week.
That's what Chaim's not here also.
Yeah. Okay, maybe Chaim's out there in YouTube land.
Sorry, Chaim.
Yehuda ato yeducha achecha v'gemer. That's what the pasuk says. This is Yankov Avinu's blessing to Yehuda. Yankov is, before his passing, is blessing all of the Shvatim, his 12 sons. And the blessing to Yehuda is Yehuda ato yeducha achecha v'gemer. Your brothers will admit to you. Mevar kveit kedushas admor azakin b'teira oyer. Now, the first thing that Rebbe says in this mimer is what the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, says in Torah Oyer. Since you reminded me about so I'll mention the style of the Rebbe's Maimorim. This should not be taken in any way in a coarse or less than reverent way, but you could describe the Lubavitcher Rebbe as a sort of a professor who's teaching a course on a survey of Chabad Chassidus. In other words, the Rebbe is taking all of Chassidus Chabad from the Balatanya through all of the Rebbeim and showing us comparisons, contrasts, themes, motifs, the evolution, the development of ideas, how they were expressed differently in the different styles of the Rebbeim. And the style of the Rebbe is very analytical and getting into the deeper meaning behind the texts of his predecessors. So if you wanted to learn a survey, obviously, to really know all of Chassidus Chabad, there are hundreds of Sfarim, and you have to learn all of them. But if you wanted to get a really good survey and have a good feel for what each Rebbe, the style of each Rebbe, and how different themes were developed over the generations, just learn the Rebbe's Maimorim. If you just learn the Rebbe's Maimorim, and then you'll have a nice overview of how ideas were developed in Chassidus Chabad from the Alter Rebbe all the way through. Okay, so here the Rebbe starts with bringing from the Torah of the Alter Rebbe. Torah are mimerim, are discourses, basically Shabbos droshes that the Alter Rebbe said, and which were orally committed to memory and then transcribed and then compiled. Okay, so in Torah Reish Parsha Seinu, Yehuda hu al Shem hapam oida es Hashem. We know that when Leah named Yehuda, right, there's Ruven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, so that was her fourth son. And being that there were four mothers, so 12 divided by 4 is 3. So after she had more than her fair share, she was beyond her share. She now had more than 3 sons. She'd had her fourth son. So she says, now, hapam, this time, I'm going to thank Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe explains, what does that mean in spiritual terms? Hu bechinas haydah shebechlalis neshamas Yisrael. That Yehuda is the gratitude that is natural to the Jewish soul. It is a natural characteristic of the Jewish soul to have gratitude toward Hashem, and that is what is referred to by Yehuda's name and Hapam Eide es Hashem. And in order that hoidah, that gratitude, should be revealed. Remember, it's a native trait. It's there. It's embedded. It's hardwired in the neshama. But in order that it should actually become expressed, hu ayedei achecha, that is through your brothers. What does that mean? Yehuda is gratitude, but the gratitude comes out or is manifest through Yehuda's brothers, Ruven, Shimon, Levi. Va'achem shel Yehuda shenil l'fanav. Not v'achem. I'm sorry. Ho'achem shel Yehuda shenil l'fanav. The brothers of Yehuda that were born before him, that precede him. V'zehu yeducha achecha, and that's what it means. Your brothers will acknowledge you. It means acknowledgement and gratitude are the same word. Haydah can mean to acknowledge, like a litigant is maida. He admits to the claim of the to the other litigant. Also could mean you're like maidani. I give thanks. So gratitude, recognition, acknowledgement. Those are all the same words. Yeducha achecha shachecha Ruven Shimon Levi heim hagormi memeviim bechinas haydah Yehuda shetia bisgalos. Yehuda is the natural gratitude that every Jew has for Hashem, but in order for that to come out, you need Ruven, Shimon, and Levi, whatever they represent. We didn't say yet what they each represent. Mevorsha, and he explains over there. See, the Rebbe is still teaching us an overview of the Alter Rebbe's mimer in Torah. So he explains over there. Sheruven v'Shimon hu inyan beis parshias dekrishma. Ruven and Shimon are the 2 paragraphs of Shema. Levi hu inyan emes v'yatziv, and Levi is after Shema when you say emes v'yatziv shel achar krishma. Vayideza boim achar kach l'shmein esrei, and then you come to Shmein Esrei, to the silent prayer bechinas hoidah v'bittul de bechinas Yehuda. That's Yehuda. Yehuda is Shmein Esrei when you're standing in a state of bittul. Bittul is where you are just channeling. At that point, it is Hashem's Fasai Tiftach. Just open up my mouth, speak through me. That's why we're able to speak about our material needs in the Shemei Esrei, because at that point, there's no ego left, ostensibly. That's the level that we've reached. But all of that selflessness, that surrender, that transparency that is achieved through the stages of Ruven, Shimon, and Levi, through the Shema and the blessings after the Shema. Okay, so that's a little bit of an overview of what the mimer in Torah speaks about. Okay, base. How many? I forgot to look. How many? I mean, there's 7 chapters here. Okay, fine. Base, chapter 2. Now the concept is, again, as explained in Torah, the Rebbe is not saying a chiddush yet. Not yet. The concept is like it's explained in Torah or over there. Dehine Ruven hu al shem ki ra'a goimer. Ruven was named. When Leah named Ruven, she named him after the fact that Hashem has seen. He has seen my plight. He's seen my situation. So Ruven is Ria, is vision, sight. Shimon al shem ki shama goimer. Shimon is named after the fact Leah felt that Hashem heard her. Now she's been heard. Vinyanom bavedas Hashem. And what do Ruven and Shimon, vision and hearing, represent in our service of Hashem? Meaning each one of us as applicable to everyone. Bechines Ruven hu shavedas elekenehi lei bechines hasagalevad kiim bechines ria. Ruven means, on a personal level, it means when you serve Hashem, you're not just doing it as a theoretical concept, but you're doing it, he calls it vision. Now, obviously, we're not talking about physical vision, but we're comparing it to physical vision. They say seeing is believing. Or the Torah version of that adage is that ein eid na'aseh dayon, that an eyewitness can never become an objective judge, because once you've seen something, that's it. I've seen it. I'm not open to any other narrative. I saw what I saw. So seeing means experiential, firsthand, personal knowledge, as opposed to hasaga, which is somebody told me about it, they described it, it sounded interesting, I believe them. But hasaga is very theoretical or abstract. Ria, vision, even mental vision as opposed to optical vision. We're not talking about optical vision, but mental vision is experiential, tangible, so to speak. Not literally tangible, because we're not talking about something physical, but it's not enough to appreciate Hashem as a philosophical idea. No, you have to have what I'm just thinking, because Yitzhak Kislev in Muncie with Rabbi Jacobson, I mentioned something. I got into a whole thing about Carl Jung, so I'll use the Carl Jung expression: a vital spiritual experience. That's what he called it. He was Carl Jung had a whole theory about recovery from addiction. He said the only thing that can cure you is a vital spiritual experience. So that means it's not enough just to know about Hashem from what you've read or from what you've heard or from what others have explained to you. It has to be a personal thing. Okay, that's called vision. V'hainu she'samsus shalai belokosi bavados hachig daila, that you have certainty. Again, like we said, seeing is believing. You have such certainty in Hashem's existence. Bidugmas adam shareya is a davar, like a person who has seen something. It's not possible anymore that he can doubt it, because he himself saw it. If you told me something and then someone else comes and tells me another version of the story, okay, so that's hearsay. And, maybe I doubt both of your accounts. But if I saw it, that's it. Now I know it for sure. So same thing when it comes to our service of Hashem. That when a person meditates on Hashem, and the Rebbe says, especially when you meditate on the concept of hashgacha pratis, that Hashem is meticulously orchestrating every detail of creation. Be'efen dihistaklos. This is called histaklos. Histaklos literally means staring or gazing. It's called staring. It's not staring with your eyes, but it's mental focus, where you feel that you've experienced something, when the idea has become so real to you that it's no longer an abstraction. It's like you've lived it. It's like I've been there. It's as if I've seen it. The idea becomes as clear to him as if he had seen it with his physical eyes. And then from that real experience of God, you come to love of God. Like it says, when the Torah is describing the naming of Ruven, it says, Ki ra gomer, ki ata Yehovani, that now he's going to love me. V'hu inyan parsha rishayna de krishma, and that corresponds to the first paragraph of Shema. V'yohafta Hashem alekecha gomer, which says, and you should love Hashem. So, first stage is called Ruven, the first son. And that is meditate with focus until the idea becomes real to you, and that will translate into love. And that corresponds to the first paragraph of Shema, V'yohafta. All right. Phase 2. Ubechinish Shimon al Shem ki shama gomer. Shimon is named after hearing. Hu shahav v'yidishalai hiba bechinish shmiya. Now we're saying it is something that you merely understand as opposed to something that you've seen for yourself. Okay, why is there a place for that? Because he's still, now we're not talking spatially, obviously, but he's still in a place of distance. Like a person who hears a report of something, they tell him, hey, did you hear what's going on in the next town? But he himself didn't see it. I mean, nowadays you would just FaceTime somebody in the next town and then you would see it. But once upon a time, if you were in a position of richuk, if you were far from something, so you couldn't see it yourself, you would have to just hear about it. And therefore, there's a different emotional reaction, the emotional reaction of awe. See, before with Ruven, the consequent emotion was love. You're staring. The idea of staring actually talks about this in Torah. The idea of staring, like gazing, like our eyes locked. It's like this romantic thing. Like gazing at your beloved. So staring and looking is ava, as opposed to and that's a whole Indian of kiruv, when you feel close and you want to get closer. Shmiya is I can't look at it. It's not happening right here. It's happening somewhere far away. Somebody told me about it. Somebody gave me a report of it. So that's yira, because yira is when I feel that I have distance from something. Like I think about Hashem is so great, I can never get there. I can never arrive. Hashem is so beyond me. So then that arouses a feeling of awe, of reverence, of insignificance. V'hu inyan parsha shniya shel krishma, the krishma. That is the second paragraph of Shema. V'hayim shemaya tishmu geimet. Hishamru lechem pen yifta geimet. Because the second paragraph, v'hayim shemaya, is a little bit more stern. It's a little more blunt as far as talking about some, we call them consequences. We don't call them punishments, we call them consequences. But it's some tough stuff. And that's the idea of yira, a feeling insignificant or less than, or that you haven't arrived. And that's very, very different than the experience of love, where you're feeling, here I am, I'm so close, I want to get closer. Because in the state of Shimon, we think of godliness as being beyond us. Im shamaya tishmu, if you hear of it. So because it's something you hear about, then therefore hishamru. Hishamru means be careful. Be careful is yira. Yira is watch yourself. You might even call it self-containment. Watch yourself, like a little respect. Hold yourself back.
Don't get too comfortable.
Don't get too comfortable.
That's
Exactly.
coming after Ava.
That's coming after Ava. Yeah.
Well, Chayr should come before.
Yeah, and in other places it says that the Yehuda comes first. Perek Mamalev says first has to come the Yehuda.
So why is it coming after?
Oh, okay. So we're gonna find out. Okay. Every mimer is different. First of all, to keep you on your toes. So, just so you should ask. So the child should ask. Okay. Ubechinas Levi. So the third phase. Al Shem Yelava Ishi Eli. When Leah named Levi, she said, now my husband's going to be attached to me. Yelava means to become attached, bonded, connected. After Shema, we say the words emes v'yatziv. What is this davar hazeh? What is this thing? This thing is true and upstanding. Koi ala Torah. This thing means the Torah. We're going to explain later what that means, but through Torah, there is attachment. So we have vision, which is love, and the first paragraph of Shema, hearing, which is awe, and the second paragraph of Shema, and we have Torah, which is attachment, and the blessing after Shema. Okay, if I had a blackboard, I write it on the blackboard. Okay, Perek Gimel. Ois Gimel. Ubir inyan hine Gimel bechinas hanal Ruven Shimon v'Levi heim Gimel hakaven shalema ilam aimed. These three categories that we've discussed also correspond to the three pillars upon which the world stands. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Shleisha Devarim, Ilam Aimed. The world stands on three things, right? Ala Torah, Ala Veda, Agmes Chasadim. And in brackets here, the Rebbe says, Gam ha'elam katan za adam, atim kriyim adam. And when we say the world stands on these three pillars, we don't just mean the macrocosm, we also mean the microcosm, that each person is a world, and each person as an individual also is held up by these three things. Torah, Aveda, Gmils Chasadim. Torah is Torah study, Aveda is prayer, and Gmils Chasadim, acts of goodness and kindness. Bechinas Ruven, let's see how they all match up. Bechinas Ruven, Ava, Hukav, Gmils Chasadim. Ruven, we said already, is love. So that's easy. Which one of the three pillars does Ruven match up to? If he's love, so he matches up with acts of goodness and kindness, because that's love. Kikasha yeshle avas Hashem, yeshle gam avas Yisrael. You know that? If you love Hashem, then you also love His people. So, because you might say to me, well, hold on a second. Well, Ruven is v'yahavtas Hashem lekecha. How does v'yahavtas Hashem lekecha go on Gimels Chasadim? Gimels Chasadim means you have to be nice to people. I don't like people. I like Hashem. It says v'yahavtas Hashem. Didn't say anything about people. So he says, if you have Avos Yisrael, if you have Avos Hashem, then automatically you have Avos Yisrael. If you have real Avos Hashem, then you have Avos Yisrael. Shaharei Avos Hashem v'Avos Yisrael heim kul echad. They are entirely one thing. V'lochein, therefore, Avidas sehi bekav gmels chasad. Therefore, if you have Ruven, you have love, then you're going to do acts of goodness and kindness. Gmels chasad. Ki avahi sibas hachesed upnimiyusa. Yeah, Gmels chasadim. Chasadim is chesed. And what's the relationship between chesed and ava? They're very related terms, but if you want to get technical, ava is the cause of chesed and its core. It's its cause and its core. In other words, chesed is the form that it takes, but the energy behind it, that is enlivening it, and at the core of it the whole time is love. So chesed is more about an expression of what? Love. Love is the emotional energy. Hamshacha milamayla lamata. And this is also called an elicitation of above to below. Why above to below? Well, that's the whole idea of love and kindness is, what's that old expression from the posters back in the 1970s? A man never stands so tall as when he stoops down to help a child. One of those posters from the 70s. Chaim Cohen gave me last night at his birthday for wedding. He gave me a present. He gave me a Footprints in the Sand mug, but people thought he was being serious, so I had to explain to them he was doing it satirically. Anyways, Footprints in the Sand. This is what these inspirational, refrigerator magnets and posters and keychains. Anyway, so one of those things, a man never stands so tall as when he stoops down to help a child. Somebody will Google that and maybe if you're watching on YouTube, let me know who said that. Man never stands so tall as when he stoops down to help a child. And it was the idea of chesed is it's flowing from above to low because it's like generosity. So who are you helping? You're not helping someone who has more than you. Why would you help someone who has more than you? You're helping somebody who has, at least in a particular context, in the context in which you're helping them, that's somebody who has less than you, and therefore you're helping them. Shimon. Okay, let's move to phase 2. Shimon, Yira. So we know that Shimon is hearing and awe. Hu kav ha'aveda. That corresponds to aveda, which means service, but it specifically refers to prayer. Inyanat tefillah, prayer. Kav ha'small. It's also called the left side, as opposed to chesed, which is the right side. This is the left side. Ubetfila gufahu inyan parsha shniya the Krishma canal. And as we said before, within prayer itself, if you want to get really particular, it's which prayer is it? It's the second paragraph of Shema, which we've already said and we've explained why. Ohim Shemaya, it's talking about Yira type things. Okay. And there he says that's Hala Milmata Lamaila, opposite trajectory. Chesed was from above to below. Above to below, and that's why chesed is compared to water. It goes down, it flows out. Water always flows down. You can't pile up water. Water is always trying to spread down low. And then you have the gvura. You didn't call it yet gvura, but that's called halo milmata l'mayla. That's going up, and that's what tefillah is. You're yearning. You're striving for something that's above you. Ubechinas Levi. And then the third phase, Bechinas Levi. Al Shem Yalava Ishi Eli Hukav HaToira. Levi is named for connection, and that is the pillar of Torah study. Why? Because through Torah, the Jews and Hashem are entirely one. How do we unite with Hashem? Through learning Torah. So that is the idea of connection. Levi is connection. So our connection is through learning Torah. I heard a vort once. I don't know where it's originally from, but somebody just told me this. Why Simchas Torah? We don't learn Torah. So he said it's the reason why a shadchan doesn't come to the chuppah. Now, you're gonna say, I saw a shadchan to the chuppah. Yeah, it's fine. It's just for the purposes of the vort. The shadchan doesn't come to the chuppah. Maybe they do go to the chuppah, but let's pretend for a minute, for the purposes of the vort, that the shadchan doesn't go to the chuppah. Why would the shadchan not go to the chuppah? Because the shadchan's whole job was to push through a deal that was, could have gone either way. The couple didn't necessarily have to end up getting married. And the shadchan had to massage things. I mean, the Alter Rebbe even says that a shidduch has to have some aspect even of mirma, a little bit of, we call it massaging, call it PR, call it spin. It's called spin. So shidduch is a little bit of spin. They even said Shadchan was what Sheker Doiver the Kesef Noitel. So they speak a little bit of spin, and then they collect a fee for closing the deal. So, anyways, the Shadchan represents the phase when the couple's whole relationship was up in the air. And now when they're getting married, it's like, hey, I don't want this person here who represents the need to massage things so that we agree to marry each other. So it's better, don't let the shadchan be there, and then we'll forget the fact that this couple ever was in doubt and they ever had to be, talked into it. Let's just pretend that they always were 100%. From the moment they saw each other, they knew it. That was it. They were completely committed. Anyway, so the idea is that Torah is like the shadchan between Hashem and the Jewish people, and Simchas Torah is the chasana. So, and Simchas Torah, you don't learn Torah because you don't want to be reminded about the fact that there had to be a broker that acted as an in-between, a go-between Hashem and the Jews. Just let's pretend that Hashem and the Jews are just one without any type of intermediary. At any rate, so the idea of Yelava connection, Levi, is Torah because Torah is the means through which the Jewish people connect with Hashem. Leah said, my husband will be attached to me. Who's my husband? My husband means our husband, Hashem. I was one time, I don't want to say where it was, but it was a place where there are a lot of different types of Jews from all walks of life and all different levels of observance and all different types of traditions. And anyways, in the middle of a talk, a woman interrupted me and she said, why do you keep calling God he? And I said, because he's my husband. And that bought me a little bit of time to be able to explain a little bit. But I explained, that, Jewish women are women in both their marriages. So it's like, at least it's consistent. But Jewish men, so in my marriage down here, I have to be the husband. But in my marriage between me and Hashem, I'm the wife. It's like, you gotta be able to switch directions. It's more versatility required, inconsistency. Anyways, so and that's why men put on tefillin, because Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvah, we say Asher Kiddishanu, which is like Lashon Kiddush, and Hashem betrothed us, and you put on the ritzua and the finger like the Kabbalah says like a tabash shel Kiddush, it's like a wedding ring, like a husband betrothing a wife. So anyways, Hashem is the husband.
The straps around the arm are the shackles.
You know what they say it is? It is the umbilical cord from the womb. Yeah. That's the closest men will get to experiencing pregnancy. Yeah. So Levi is attachment to the husband, which is Hashem, and that is through Torah. So we have the three pillars. We have in the order that we listed them, not in the order of the Mishnah. In the Mishnah is Torah, Avodah, Gemas Chasadim, but here it's Gemas Chasadim, Avodah, and Torah. Gemas Chasadim is Ruven, which is vision and love, and then we have Avodah, which is Shimon and awe, and then we have Torah, which is Levi and attachment. Okay, so ki idea Torah naise chibur im ishi ze HaKadosh Baruch Hu ad she Yisrael v'kutsh b'richu kol echad zeu ma shebechinas Levi hu inyan emes v'yatziv chulu. So that's why Levi corresponds to that portion of davening right after the Shema. Hadavar hazeh, because what did we say? Hadavar hazeh shekoi kanal al haTorah. After Shema, we speak of Torah. We speak about how Torah is upright and true and affirmed. So that makes sense that after we've done Ruven and Shimon, which are Gemas Chasadim and Avodah respectively, now we do Torah. That's right where it belongs. Okay, Ois Dalad. Somebody is watching from Melbourne, Australia, where it's Erev Shabbos. Yeah, it is. It's very close to Shabbos right now. Okay, so we're going to hurry it up. Somebody wrote in the chat they're watching from Melbourne, Australia. Okay, we're going to hurry it up so that you can.
In the middle of summer.
Oh, that's right. There, it's the summertime there. Oh, okay. So you have time. You have time. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Because the shortest fast for us is Asara B'Tevis. But over there, it's the longest one. Shivas B'Tammuz is short for them. So if you really want to plan your year, you go to Australia for Shivas B'Tammuz, you come back to America for Asara B'Tevis. Tisha B'Av, we can't help you because it's 24 hours, so there's nothing you do. But Mashiach could come, and that's the best solution. So now we get rid of the other fasts as well. Okay. Dalit. Let's do Dalit. Okay. It's 2 p.m. That's what it says. 2 p.m. in Melbourne. Dalit. V'zehu Yehuda ato yidu chachacha. And this is what it means. Yehuda, your brothers will acknowledge you. Ruven, Shimon, Levi, that the Aveda, that when you, each Jew, each one of us, does your Ruven and does your Shimon and does your Levi, which means base parshas de Krishma v'emes v'yativ, the 2 paragraphs of Shema plus the blessing after Shema. That is the preparation to bring you to the level called Yehuda, which is what? Davening the Amida, which is what? Haida ubitul, gratitude and surrender. Ka'avda kamei mare, like a servant standing in front of his master. The way that we're supposed to feel when we stand during the Amidah, the standing prayer, is like a servant who's standing before his master in absolute bittul, total selflessness. At that point, your self-awareness disappears. It's like you're so much in awe, you can't even be in awe because it's just overwhelmed. And at that point, there's no existence but the king himself. So you become completely transparent, complete ego abnegation, and that's why we say Hashem sfosai tiftach, Hashem open up my mouth. At that point, you're just channeling. At that point, you're just a conduit. If you're doing it right. If you do your Ruven, your Shimon, your Levi, then by the time you get to Shemoneh Esrei, you're at the level of Yehuda, and you're just a conduit. Okay. Shabittul, the tefillah ha'amidah bittul betachlis. The level of bittul, see, there's levels in bittul, but the level of bittul in the Shemoneh Esrei is bittul betachlis, complete surrender. Lamayla gama habittul de Krishma. It's higher than the bittul of Krishma. When you're saying Shema, Shema is also bittul, because Shema, you're also saying Hashem is one, which one doesn't just mean one God. Doesn't just mean monotheism. Hashem is one means there's only one existence. That's what echad is. The aleph is one, and the ches is the 7 heavens and the earth, which is 8, and the dal is the 4 connections, the 4 directions. So you're saying Hashem is oneness. Hashem is everything. Everything is God, and God is everything. So that's certainly bittul, but it's more of a philosophical bittul. Shemoneh Esrei is like real bittul. It's like I've lost the capacity for self-awareness. Not even thinking, oh, you know what? My existence really is batal to Hashem. No, I've lost the capacity for self-awareness, which is why when you come to Shemoneh Esrei, you can speak about material stuff, because at that point, it's not me, not even for me. Okay. Now here's a little fun halacha. When it comes to the laws of when you're allowed to be mafsik, when you're allowed to interrupt in prayer, ben krishma l'Shemoneh Esrei, regarding interrupting between Shema and Shemoneh Esrei. Inyan zeh, Masha al yedei ha'aved the bechinas Ruven, Shimon, v'Levi. The point is that you're not mafsik. So one leads one into the other. One is the result of the other. ועניין זה מה שעל ידי העבודה לבחינס ראובן, שמעון ולוי, מגיעים אחר כך לבחינס יהודה, בין הרביעי, הוא על דרך הידוע בעניין גימל הכסרים, כסר תורה, כסר כהונה וכסר מלכוס, שהם בגימל הכוון תורה עבודה גמילס כסדים. Okay. So now we say like this. You go from Shema and its brachas into Shemini Esrei, which is basically Ruven, Shimon, Levi, taking you into Yehuda. That is similar to the idea of the three crowns. What are the three crowns? The crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of kingship. Shehem, which are Begimel HaKavan Torah Aveda Gemilas Chasadim. Those match up, right? You have the crown of Torah, which is obviously Torah, and you have the crown of Kahuna, which is Aveda. Right? The Kohen does the Aveda. And well, that's interesting.
Wow,
Wasn't it?
it's like a lower level mile.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. It's a good argument. Anyway, so you want to say Malchus is Aveda?
Derech Efsher says like him. Aveda is Kesa Malchus and Gemilas Chasadim Kesa Kuna.
Well, that's what the Bir B'derech Efsher says?
Yeah, on the bottom.
Okay, so let's go with that. I'm outvoted. So the Kohen is Ish Chesed, so that's the Gemilas Chasadim. The Malchus you're going to say is what? Because it's Mushash and Gvurei, so that's the Halah, so that's the Aveda. Malchus is the Aveda. Okay. And Torah is Torah. Torah is Torah. At least one of them is obvious. Okay. So that's the three Kavan. Shem Gimel Kavan Torah Aveda Gemilas Chasadim. All right. And then you have a fourth crown, V'kaser Shem Tov Sheilal Gebeihen, the crown of a good name, good reputation, which surpasses them all. Shulamai Mehem, which is higher than all of them. Shebechdei La'agil Lebechinas Kaser Shem Tov V'al Yidei Gimel Ksarim Elal Gebeihen. The Rebbe says, what does that mean? That Kaser Shem Tov, the crown of good name, surpasses the other crowns, the crown of Torah and the crown of Kahuna and the crown of Malchus. It doesn't just mean it surpasses them. It's a progression. It's a process that through having those three crowns, you come to the highest crown, which is the crown of a good name. And he's saying this is similar to the process, the progression of going through Ruven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. Same thing. You're going through the three things, then you're coming to the fourth. The three things which are precursor to the fourth level. So again, the same type of pattern here. Okay. Ice. Hey. V'hinei zeh shebechinas Yehuda tzarich la'agdamas ha'aveda bechinas Ruven, Shimon v'Levi. Why does Yehuda require going through three stages first? Why do you have to go through three stages? Why those three stages? Only because, like we said before, look, the truth is the Haidah, the gratitude of the Jew is latent. It's always there, but that's just the point. It's latent, and it has to be brought out in a revealed way. So to get it out into a revealed way, you have to go through these three stages. Deep down, that gratitude and that humility, gratitude and humility are really synonymous. You know, if you're arrogant, then you feel entitled, then you're never grateful because you always think you deserve more. But if you're humble, then you're grateful. Oh, that's so nice. That's even better than I thought that I was going to get. Wow. So if you're grateful, you're humble, you're grateful. And that's always there. That's running in the background because it's hardwired in the neshama, but it's not always manifested. It's not always brought out in a revealed way. You're not always feeling it consciously. כמבואר בתורה אור שהיוד יהודה מיר על האהבה והתמידוס מכוח יעשה איוב כל הימים. And the Alter Rebbe says this in Torah Or that grammatically Yehuda, the Shoirish is Hoid or Haidah, which is again surrender or gratitude or recognition or do we say humility? All those words are synonymous. But then what's the Yud of Yehuda? Yehuda. So the Yud grammatically functions to show an ongoing action. And the example of that is from the Pasuk in Eov, the verse in the book of Job, where it's describing Eov's, his minhag, his custom of he's making different parties by his children. So Kocha Yasa Eov means that's what Job used to do. That's what he was always doing. Job, that's what he was always doing. So the Yud shows something that's a constant, something that is always happening. Deep down, again, not on an active level, but deep down, the Haidah is always there. It is always. The Mashakosov, Hapam Oides Hashem. So then why do we say, now this time I'll thank Hashem, right? When Leah named Yehuda, she said this time, and we're saying that that's not just referring to Yehuda, that's referring to all of us. And what within us is it referring to? It's referring to our gratitude toward Hashem, and we're saying that gratitude toward Hashem is in us all the time. Well, hold on then. Why in the original scriptural context to say now this time, as opposed to until now, I haven't been so grateful. So then what's up with that? So he explains, when it says hapam, this time it applies that not all times are the same. That's only talking about revelation. You want to talk about the essence of the Jew, and that's why Jews are called Yehudim. The essence of the Jews are that we are constantly grateful to Hashem, just essentially grateful. But that's not on an active level all the time. That on an active level, it fluctuates, and there are times where it comes out and times where it doesn't come out. So you see where we're heading, right? Because we've been asking a question: what's up with Ruven, Shimon, and Levi, and why are they necessary precursors to Yehuda? What we're saying is, well, if you to have the Haidah to Hashem, just to have it somewhere, like the guy who had a hard drive in England last week. Maybe it was this week. You heard about the guy with a hard drive with like $300 million of Bitcoin on it? He bought like $12 of Bitcoin 10 years ago or whatever it was. He had $300 million of Bitcoin on a hard drive, and he threw it away, and he's like turning over a whole garbage dump in England. I saw this week or last week. Anyways, so that guy, in theory, he's a millionaire. He's got $300 million somewhere on a hard drive somewhere in some garbage dump, if you can find it. Anyways, so there's Haidah is there. It's always there. You've got it. Like you've got $300 million of Bitcoin on your hard drive. You've got the Haidah, yeah. But if you want it to come out and you want to feel it, you want to consciously be in a state of gratitude, then there are preparations that you have to go through to get that to come out. And that's what we're about to explain. Mitzad helam v'hesed haguf v'nefesh ba'amis, because having a body, this whole embodiment thing, and having an animal soul, the animal soul is the personality of the body and the will of the body and the survival mechanism of the body. So all that stuff covers up. It's helam v'hester, causes concealment. Befrat mitzad helam v'hester agolus. Oh, and that's an exacerbating factor. Not only is your neshama stuck in a body with an animal soul, but look at the world. We're in a condition right now, for the past couple thousand years, where godliness is hidden. So a lot of stuff is covered up, including, namely, for the purposes of this discussion, the constant gratitude of the Jewish souls. That's why we're not feeling it right now. It's there, but we're not feeling it. But the godly soul of every Jew, which is his real identity, doesn't matter what he's feeling, doesn't matter what he's conscious of. His real identity is his godly soul. He tamid b'mani itay. It is constantly faithful to Hashem. The Eides Hashem who atzle betmidas, and it is constantly thanking Hashem, not just hapam this time, but all the time. Ve'eich shaykh v'zeh shum shinui, ve'ein shaykh v'zeh shum shinui, chas v'shalom, and it is not even possible to undergo change, because that's what it is. That is the essence of the soul, so it does not change. V'agdamas ha'aved the bechinas Ruven v'Shimon v'Levi u'bechdei lo oirer ha'ida shebepnimias ha'lev shetia begilui. So the whole Ruven, Shimon, v'Levi phases, that's to get the ha'ida to come out. V'achetetzi pu'olasem ha'keich ha'lapel mamish b'machshava dibra ma'aseh. And what does it mean to come out? It means to come out in thought. That means conscious thought, in speech, verbal articulation, and in action, physical actions. So it's not just that you are grateful. It's that you are doing something about it. You are doing grateful. But in order for that to happen, you have to go through the stages. You have to go through the process. Okay.
It doesn't at all explain why that's the process. Like that's what it sounded like he was about to explain, why those things are necessary for curses. All he explains is that it's just the Gili and not Helen, but why Ruven, Shimon, and Levi are the necessary Dhamma to the Gili.
Because it's a I mean, gratitude is synonymous with bittul b'tachlis. He says it's not just a regular bittul, it's bittul b'tachlis. So how are you going to go straight to bittul b'tachlis? I mean, you know how much damage comes from trying to artificially accelerate that process and make people take somebody from 0 to 60, you know, like a Tesla. I was one time riding with a guy in a Tesla. He wanted to show me how quickly they accelerate. I was not ready for it. But anyways, to get to bittul b'tachlis, I mean, some people do it artificially. They try to like just shatter your self-esteem and tell you you're worthless, but that's not bittul b'tachlis. How do you get to bittul b'tachlis? Bittul b'tachlis means that ultimately I don't have a sense of self that interrupts my sense of the infinite. So how are you supposed to get there? Well, one way, which is not really healthy, and doesn't really even accomplish the goal, is just to shatter somebody's sense of self. So he has no sense of self. Okay, so shikoyach, that's not really accomplishing bittul b'tachlis. That's not causing that you become a transparent conduit. That's just destroying the self. How do you refine the self? So he says it's a process. First thing is you gotta love. You gotta love. Love is the first thing. I mean, you have to explain something. You have to explain to somebody why is something good for them. Why should you like it? Get them excited. You got to get them attracted to it, so that you get them feeling good about it. That's love. Remember, you're going from a yesh to bittul b'tachlis. So where are you going to start from? You're going to start from, I mean, Ava is, we know that yesh mishayev. Ava is a little bit self-aware. I mean, that's ultimately that's what Ava is. And that's why, by the way, if Ava isn't tempered by Yira, then it becomes invasive and cloying, because it's about me. It's like, oh, look at me, how loving I am. It lacks a certain bittul, but then you mature. You go on to yira. Yira is, like you said, don't get too comfortable. So so there's a little bit more bittul there. With the yira is like, okay, now back off. Now give space. It's like love. It's very nice. You can be loving, but if it's too much, it becomes smothering. It becomes invasive. It becomes cloying. So okay, now the yira, so a little bit more bittul. All right, fine. Now I'm standing back. Okay, all right. Should I just stand here? Should I just stay here? Like, no. Now approach respectfully. Now you love it. You can do connection, which is Torah, and that's where you're connecting. But it's connecting in a when you're learning Torah, it's Hashem's ideas. It's Hashem's ideas. It's like when like in Perek of Tanya, when it's talking about the Yichud Nifla Shein Kameyu, that when you learn Torah, you're one with Hashem. Why? Because His thoughts become your thoughts? No, because your thoughts become His thoughts. Because okay, so that's even more bittul. That's even more bittul.
You want with him now, so what's missing?
Because I'm not totally one with Him. Because I'm totally one with Him.
You could just quote it.
No, because I'm still thinking. Because I'm chadish, because I'm still thinking. I'm still using my brain. Then there's another level. Shemay Esrei. Shemay Esrei is now I'm just a conduit. Now I'm just transparent. And then you come back full circle, because at that point where you're completely selfless, you can talk about all your material needs and your all the personal things you need, like tfilas chana, because at that point there's no you. Complete surrender, complete intimacy. Like when a husband and a wife become totally one, so then it becomes like, what's the difference between something I want for myself or something I want for my spouse? I mean, if you're really that surrendered, if you're really that batal, so at that point, Shemon Esrei, does it matter if I'm asking something for Hashem or asking something for me? What's the difference between me and Hashem at that point? But it's a process, and supposedly it's a process that I guess people are able to do in about 8 minutes, because that's what I've been seeing. That people, that's what I see. That from Shema until the end of Shemay Esrei. So yeah, like 8 minutes, 12 minutes. But that's what it is. Okay. All right, fine. So let's. We got. We're on Vav. All right, we're going a little bit longer than we normally go, but why not? Somebody's asking here a question in the chat. How does a person who spent most of their life almost completely assimilated get over the anger and regret/resentment for having missed out on Torah and Jewish community for so long? Well, that's an interesting question. All right. Not really on the topic here, so I don't want to get, it's a wonderful question, but I don't want to get off topic too much. So I'm going to try to answer it very succinctly. If you are now studying Torah and devoting yourself to mitzvahs, that means you believe in Hashem, right? You're not doing this for the heck of it. You're not doing it for some secular reason, like you think it's culturally important, right? You're doing it because you believe this is the will of God. So if you are committing yourself or beginning to commit yourself or trying to commit yourself as much as you can right now, each day, to the service of God and doing the will of God, then can you accept the idea that your life story has been the will of God? And that God knows exactly what He's doing, and He put you in the family that He put you in, and He put you in the community that He put you in order that you should be able to come to this moment right now of Torah study that you're engaged in with the background that you have, and that everything that you've been through is important and necessary, because if it weren't necessary, Hashem wouldn't have put you through it. Everything you've been through is necessary to your attaching yourself to Hashem as you are right now. So there's really nothing to be resentful of. That's second guessing Hashem's plan. Hashem knows exactly what He's doing. And I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you made it to this point. And this is heavy stuff. You're learning a mimer here in the actual text, this is not easy study. There's a lot of Hebrew here and a lot of Kabbalistic terms. So congratulations, you've arrived. But don't get too comfortable because each day you got to grow more and more. Okay. Anyways, he says, I see the logic conceptually, but I'm still trying to accept it viscerally. Thank you so much for replying. Yeah, all right. Well, it sounds like emotionally you, yeah, I get it. So you're. If I weren't being recorded right now, I'd be more free to reply. But if we were talking one-on-one and the YouTube world weren't listening, I would actually try to get real with you right now and ask you, tell me a little bit more about this resentment. Like, who was it? Your third grade Hebrew school teacher? Like, tell me who exactly was it? Anyways, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to get back to the mimer. Okay. Anyways, you're in a good place. Just keep it up. Okay. Vav. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemy. That when you come to the level of this complete surrender that we're describing, this transparency of ego, then you'll also come to the level of grabbing your enemy by the neck, spiritually. Spiritually. Like it's explained in Torah. But also physically. No verse departs from its plain meaning, so the plain meaning still stands. Nemar gur arye Yehuda goimer. Then after that, it says that Yehuda is a lion. I think the word is whelp. Is that the right word? Lion whelp? Cub is like a bear cub. I'm from Chicago. We have the Chicago Cubs. Bear cubs. But I think a baby lion is called a lion whelp. Yeah, someone's giving me a thumbs up, but I don't know if it's about that or it's about the discussion about the resentments about the third grade Hebrew school teacher with the guitar. Had a guitar, right? Okay. Anyways, I think it's called a lion whelp. Lo yaser shevet Yehuda goimer. The scepter will not depart from Yehuda. The scepter. Kingship, symbol of kingship. Now here's the Rebbe's Chiddush. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemy, meaning you will have dominance over your opposition, both spiritually and literally, physically. That will happen even before the redemption, which restores the kingship of Yehuda. David HaMelech is from Shevet Yehuda, and he is the forebearer of Mashiach. But even before Mashiach begins to rule, we will already experience this idea of domination over our enemies. The phrase is the lion whelp or lion cub, we'll find out which one it is, and the scepter will not depart from Yehuda. Those refer to King David and King Solomon, father and son. That Mashiach will be from their lineage. Sha'ol of Nemar become Shevet Yisrael. Now, regarding Mashiach, it says that a scepter will stand up from the Jewish people, a ruler. V'sha'oz yeh ve'avdi David melech aleihem ve'David avdi nasi lahem lo'elam, and then King David's rulership will be eternal. K'meshikasu b'Haftarah the Shabbos ha'aver, like it says in the Haftarah, not of Shabbos Vayechi, but of the Haftarah of last week of Vayigash. Shminei Mizbarchin Kuliyamin, but we know that Shabbos blesses all the days of the week that come after it, so we're still under the influence of the previous Haftarah, even though we're learning Parshas Vayechi. Before the Gullus even ends, we'll experience this domination over our enemies. Shekol Oive Yisrael, Shekol Yisrael Nikraim Al Shem Yehuda. Every single Jew is called Yehuda, and Yehuda will have dominance over all of his enemies. Tipul Aleim Mosav Fachad, and dread and awe will befall all of the enemies of Yehuda. Al Yidei Gilui Haidah Shebechlalis Neshamas Yisrael. When the Haidah, when the gratitude and humility of the Jews come out, then they will dominate over their enemies even before the advent of the Messianic era. And of course, let's take this personally. What does that mean to have domination over our enemies? Not just in a geopolitical sense, of course, that too, but on a personal level, that we're going to be able to control our own thought, speech, and action and not allow the enemy, the internal enemy, to co-opt our thought, speech, and action. When you walk in Hashem's statutes, then all your enemies will fall before you. Enemies both. What is it in the oath the president takes? I swear to defend the Constitution and the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. What's the Lashon? What's the all enemies, foreign and domestic? So enemies, foreign and domestic. Enemies, foreign means outside of you. Domestic, inside of you. That's my Ulay Yishleim. I'm darshaning the oath of the president. Somebody will look up the oath of the president and put it in the chat. Okay, foreign and domestic. Okay. What? Vice president? That's only the vice president says that? No, I'm sure someone wrote the vice president. The president doesn't have, the president's got better things to do, but the vice president, make sure he signs all the oaths. Okay. Zion. Let's finish up here. Okay, we usually finish. Okay. I thought that this is a short mimer. We could finish it in 45 minutes. Okay, we didn't. Okay, I thought that it would take 45 minutes, but okay. All right. Zion. Yesh loymar dezahu gam kasher Yehuda ato yiduchacha yodecha ba'edefevecha leveyechi yankiv be'eretz Mitzrayim. Now we're going to connect this particular verse that we've been studying about Yehuda. We're going to connect it to the overall title of this Torah portion and the opening verse of the Torah portion, which is, and Jacob lived. Talking about Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, our father's life, his last years of his life, 17 years of his life in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. Okay. Shagam kishi Yisrael nimtzoyim begalus. Even when Jews are in exile, just like Yaakov was in Mitzrayim, shekol hagolius hamalchuyos nikras al shem Mitzrayim. Every exile and every foreign kingship that ruled over us, they're all called Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is the archetypical exile and foreign ruling power. But through learning Torah, then we live. We live even in exile. And by doing mitzvahs aleim nemar v'chai bahem, we say about the mitzvahs, and you shall live with them. Like the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, said to his Einikel, the Tzemach Tzedek, Al Posik Vayechi Yankiv Eretz Mitzrayim, that Yankiv lived in the land of Mitzrayim, Shayidei. Shivas Yehuda Shalach Lafon of Geimer Lahidus Lafon of Geishna asking like base Talmud Hulu, that when Yaakov came down to Mitzrayim, before he even arrived, he sent Yehuda in front of him, ahead of him, to go make a yeshiva. So then, even in the exile of Egypt, Yaakov was living the good life spiritually because he had Torah. Vayidei.
Yeah, I don't.
Hmm?
Yeah, Yehuda.
So you had Yehuda, and it wasn't just Torah, it was the Torah of Yehuda, right? It was Yehuda who made the base Talmud. Okay. Vayidei zeh nice Yehuda ato yidecho achacha. Now, so we have the first pasuk. We have the first pasuk of the parsha, Vayichi Yankiv, which means living even when you're in Galus, living through Torah and mitzvahs, and that's connected to Yehuda. Why? Because Yehuda is the one who set up that Torah should be available there in Galus, and that's connected to the idea of dominating over our enemies, because that's the bracha Yehuda got, that you're going to grab the enemies by the neck. Yod chebe'erev havecha. That when the voice, the sound of the Jews is reverberating in the study halls and in the synagogues, so then the hands of Esav, of our enemies, will not dominate. And even more than that. Not just that if we're learning and we're doing mitzvahs the right way, that the bad guys are going to crawl into the corner and leave us alone. No, even more than that. That the nations of the world will themselves assist the Jewish people. With every physical thing. Obviously, they're there to help us with logistics, with infrastructure, right? The physical stuff. So that we can learn Torah and do mitzvahs with material abundance, with comfort. We don't have to worry. Why? Because the nations of the world are running a tight ship. They're running a great world with lots of technology and transportation and medicine and all types of advances of communication, everything. Beautiful, everything. Modern technology and everything's running smoothly. And we can just sit back and, I don't want to say sit back because it's not like sitting in a hot tub drinking pina colada, but we're not going to be preoccupied with running the material stuff. So then we can delve sufficiently into learning Torah and knowing Hashem. And in a growing fashion, an ever increasing fashion, and this light, this increasing light, will push off the darkness, the spiritual darkness of exile, and bring the redemption through Mashiach. Mamish. Okay, all right. We did it. Yeah.